Don't want to do this.
I can, please.
Hey, Lynn. Hey. That's our scraper. They were just talking about it, the history of the company and stuff.
Well, it's noon. I'll call this special city council meeting on Tuesday, December 28th to order. If you'll rise, we'll have a communication followed by the pledge. Kenny, would you please communicate?
Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day, Lord. We just thank you for all your blessings, Lord. We just ask you to give this today, Lord, as we conduct city business, Lord. Just grant us wisdom and guidance, Lord. Just forgive us where we fail you. For us in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Janine, are there any public comments?
No, sir?
Next, we're going to skip and do the seal coat program, get it out of the way, so we have all the time we need to.
In your packet, we've been working hard to classify our streets on their condition. If you look at this map on page 17, it shows the yellow or light greenish colored streets are the ones that we've done. And the red streets are the worst. Pink streets are a little better, and then the orange streets are not that bad right now. So hopefully that kind of gives you an indication of where the need is for seal coating. And I think 700,000 is probably a good estimate. I've spent probably close to about almost 40,000 of the 750,000 on seal coating some roads up behind the Sonic drive-in. I've just handed you a little map that shows different areas of town. Just one of the things to think about with seal coating is you have to try to group your roads the best you can. You don't want to do one block over here and one block over there because it's not very efficient and you can't do as much if you skip around. So if you ask me today what area I think probably needs it the most is north of Wayland Jennings and kind of western part of town. That area right in there is probably consistently bad streets right through there. And the streets are a little patching and they would be great candidates for the seal coating. We've used Park Hill group seal coating. It's really the only good group seal coating offer there is in the area, and most cities in the area are using them. Leveland and other people that are doing serious seal coating will get in this consortium because of economy of scale. Usually get a good price. They're estimating just a little under $3 a yard for the seal coating like we had last year. And a side note, they're going to be doing some warranty work, probably the same time they're seal coating. They'll be doing some warranty work along Phelps, where we weren't very pleased with final products. Not a lot you can do besides just re-seal coating, so I figured they'll re-seal coat part of that area. And I want to make sure y'all are okay staying with the same program that we've been doing. It saves on engineering and it saves on a lot of different things to stay with the group seal coating. I don't have any other options handy besides just trying to do our own. I think that would be kind of difficult to try to get a good price. So if y'all are okay with that, I'm gonna recommend that we stay with Park Hill. So we have about 700,000 to work with, and on page 17, you can see the areas. We started trying to work to the east there. If you come along Phelps, the part that we did last year from Wayland Jennings down to 84. And what I think we should do is go north of Wayland Jennings and west of the downtown, all the way up to First Street, if we can make it all the way up there. And then do some east of Hall and south of Wayland Jennings, go eastward with that. And then I also want to do East 14th Street, east of Hall, the road that goes toward the school administration building. It's pretty bad, and we really probably should seal coat that, because there's a lot of traffic on that road and visitors from out of town and stuff driving on that. So that's what I would recommend, is that we do those areas and go up to 700,000 with our budget.
Why would we jump south and east of Hall on those few little streets?
Well, I think we, south and east of Hall.
I assume you're talking about, you said south of Wayland Jennings, what'd you say? South of Wayland Jennings, east of Hall?
South of Wayland Jennings and east of Hall, we've started coming across there with some seal coating. We didn't get very far last year, like right here. We started trying to come this way, but we couldn't go very far. Phelps, east of Phelps, we started moving that direction, and we didn't get very far. We only did a few streets in that direction, east of Phelps there, south of Wayland Jennings, sorry. And I think limited to two big areas, I think we're still fine, blocking off areas.
So if you go to First Street in the northwest quadrant of town, why not just finish up? You don't lack very much getting those handful of streets west of Sunset.
I mean, that's an option, not a problem at all, because
Not leave them out.
I've got 580,000 to do that whole block up there, all the way up to it. And that's smart thinking to, you want it, you just want whatever you seal coat, you want to be able to pick up the next year and the next year with some kind of rhyme or reason, in your rotation. And you could do, I've got estimated 580,000 to do that area up there. So you'd have some left over. We could do East 14th and then continue east from Phelps.
Make a motion to stay in the group seal coat program with Park Hill, Smith, and Cooper to focus on the northwest quadrant of town from Wayland Jennings north and west of Phelps Avenue downtown, encompassing that whole area, and then whatever money you have left over to hit the hottest streets that you've been through, probably. Will that work?
That'll work.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Eric, seconded by Kenny. Not trying to limit discussion, I was just trying to make a motion. So is there any discussion or questions on that, or a different motion?
When would they be able to start?
I think they're trying to get early this year.
When you say
So
early,
they're-
I mean, we still gonna wait till it's kind of.
Oh, yeah, it'll be warm. It'll have to be warm.
Right.
So, very earliest June, so it'll have to be warm enough. And they're still going to use that same rubberized coated aggregate. And that stuff's great. I mean, you get it down good, works good. But I think we had a problem with a contractor last year didn't do a good job.
And these estimates are yours, or the engineers kind of?
Well, the engineers helped me set up on our GIS mapping and a weighted grade each one of the streets. And I'm using an estimate of 30-foot wide. Some of them are 28, some of them are 34. They're all over the place. We won't know the exact number until the engineers come out and measure
But
each street.
you took an average yardage by so many dollars per yard.
Comes up to about 2.4 million to do the whole town start to finish, which is a little more than twice what I figured. My estimate is a little bit low. But the map I have is, I can go in and grade these streets from a scale of 0 to 100, and I can pull that out into a spreadsheet.
So we're gonna, Michael, it was years ago when they last seal coated that.
Yeah. We were in a 5-year program at one time for the detention center folks.
It's been 15 years.
Yeah. It's been a while.
So the motion before us is to continue with Park Hill Smith and Cooper's group seal coat program to focus on the area north of Wayland, west of Phelps in that northwest quadrant, and then use any excess money that we have budgeted on the highest priority streets the city manager has. Any additions or amendments? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next, we will consider and approve a directive regarding landfill equipment, including compactor, scraper, and other equipment. This is a continuation from our regular meeting 2 weeks ago before Christmas. We brought this up, we had several council members out, brought up the potential of replacing our compactor, scraper, just overall landfill operations. Buddy and Eric, y'all were gone, so kind of what we had, the reason, not that scraper or the compactor we have is a problem. We bought it, it's working. One of the concerns is that it does have a lot of downtime. They've had a lot of warranty work and stuff. It was a refurbished machine that they've been still refurbishing. Lance had said that we've had it about 4 months, correct, Lance? Got it in July.
Yeah.
And collectively, doesn't have a real great number, but collectively it's been down for over 30 days with repair work and stuff. One of our concerns is, I mean, we're sitting kind of on a powder keg with not being able to get these, we've ordered these new trash trucks, they're not coming in. And, you know, if we have to defer back to Abernathy, we're gonna get those old trucks on the road and be back in trash truck problems, or have to use contractors, which we see how much that costs. And so, you know, while everything's working, we're not in a hurry. We don't have to make a decision today, but just brought it up to you. I had pushed Mitch to get some numbers together to give the discussion of going ahead and replacing the compactor with a brand new one to avoid any future problems. If you ask Maribel and Lance are both here today, Mitch and I visited in his office before the last meeting, and we're going over some of this and asked Lance a lot of questions. And one of the discussions with Lance was what's the most important need at the landfill, and he said a scraper. So thus, you know, that we're discussing the scraper today. So the importance of the scraper is they're doing their final, Maribel correct me, Lance correct me where I'm wrong, or Mitch, is they do their final, the type 4, which is patriciables, right?
Type 1. Type 1.
Type 1, they do daily covered on, they cover with some dirt, just the operating face of it. And what they've done, the best method they've found is y'all use the scraper to put dirt on it, correct?
Yes.
And also with our cells being underwater, the problems we've had the last 3 or 4 months with those new cells being underwater and not being able to get the new one dug, is they've went in and been putting trash in some areas of not closed cells but nearly completed cells, filling in some low spots. And so we've got 20 or 30 acres of exposed trash that needs its final, they've kind of got that all filled in. It needs leveled up, and then it needs a final cover of 6 to 12 inches of dirt on it. And there's really no way to cover that other than with the scraper that's effective. And so y'all kind of feel less than, that's the highlights of what we talked about last time. Or Mitch, whoever.
I'll get it started up. They're making really good progress on that new pit. They're rolling really fast on it. And I'm definitely not an expert on running landfill, so I apologize, I didn't realize how big a deal the scraper was. They've been using a track loader to cover with, which is not the best use for that. It's not really designed for optimal use in covering when you look like that good track loader that we have out there. But it kind of boils down to, if we're gonna buy a new machine, the cat is a year wait, over a year. We don't know how long to get a cat, and cats have gone up considerably over the last just few months. And the Tana, which I'm not that familiar with, and I'm gonna eat my words. Earlier I did some checking and I didn't get a good report on the Tana. I don't know if I got a bad person to talk to or what, but I think y'all like to have his name a bit. But since then, you know, we've been looking at these things and they just seem pretty simple. And if their operation was out of Dallas or somewhere, I think it might be a little closer raised, but these guys, they're the North American headquarters for Tana, and they've got a huge operation there. They're not going anywhere. These guys are from Idlew and Guthrie, and they're local folks, and they know what they're doing, and I believe that the amount of service would probably would cancel out any apprehension I had about not going with the cat. So from what I've seen, the machine is more efficient, and it's fuel more efficient in saving space on our sails. The sails are getting a lot more expensive, probably 4 times as high as they were when I first started here. Now we're looking at $200,000 probably, or at least $160,000 to dig a new sail. So we got to be thinking about our compaction rate, and everything I've read and looked at on these things, they look pretty good. And we've been over there on their yard several times. Lance and Andrew have been over there several times too, and looked at them. We've looked at used ones, looked at new ones, and I mean, it's kind of where we're at. That's why we invited these guys here today.
We talking about the scraper, or we talking about the compactor right there, Mitch?
Well, right now, compactor. We also need to be talking about the scraper too. The scraper was getting kind of warm, and we had an estimate of $40,000 back a few months ago to repair it. That's something we need to kind of make a decision on today. Also, I'd like to recommend that we repair the one we have and use it, and then be shopping for another one. And then also maybe look at getting rid of our current compactor if we buy a new one. There's kind of 3 parts to it. On our landfill and equipment at the landfill. Got to commend Mirabelle and Lance. They went out there today and things worked like clockwork. There were 3 trucks dumped before 8 o'clock, I think, this morning. So, and they were getting it packed and covered, and new sails getting dug.
So,
they're making it operate, but.
So are you asking for a compactor and a scraper, or, because the last conversation we had was a compactor, right? I think
We didn't have the scraper on the agenda prior to after posting the agenda and talking to Lance and Maribel. You know, the scraper seems to be the hottest fire out there right now. The compactor is not fired yet, but could be.
Yeah, the scraper is something we probably should repair. I mean, it's got a good drivetrain, it's got good tires. When I looked on the internet, one that is comparable to ours, the 615C is anywhere from $40,000 to $150,000. So I figured repairing it's probably a good option for right now to get that repaired. New scraper, 1,60,000 for a new scraper that's a size larger than the one we have. And just got that estimate back from them. And used ones anywhere from 800,000 range for a fairly low mileage, 18-yard machine. Ours is a 16, it's 15.
So this is there's a lot of pieces to what we're talking about here, and so we'll kind of break it down. We need to talk about compactor. Do we want to live with what we have for a little bit? Do we want to go ahead while we're able, while there's machines available? You know, when we ran into this problem in July, the issue was we need something. We're not operating. You know, to find cats and stuff is months. We should have took a harder look at TANAs at that point, hindsight 2020. But you know, at the time, we made the best decision for the most cost-effective thing we could do. So the discussion, kind of the compactor, we want to hear from these guys of the benefits of the TANA. Secondly is the scraper. We need to make a decision on, we do want to repair our scraper, which we'll need to talk about. And then also the third aspect is potentially buying a new scraper. And like we talked about at the meeting last time, when we started digging, we used to dig our own cells when Derek was here and that scraper was in better shape. Got behind, then we started using contractors to dig them starting probably 5 years ago, right, Mitch? At that time, we were digging new cells for $50,000 to $60,000, went to 80, went to 90, and now we're at 160. And so that is a discussion we need to have with, you know, potentially buying another scraper, a better scraper, bigger scraper, is to be able to get started digging our own cells like we used to. And then keeping our scraper is maybe a cover rig or something. So let's go ahead and let Humdinger talk about this TANA, and so we can kind of talk about this. We don't have to decide on it, then we'll talk about scrapers and try to break this down into stuff. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. You know, a lot of what Mr. Grant said is kind of my song and dance. I mean, we are local. We are a small company. We're community guys, and we started out in this compactor business a good while back and didn't realize what we'd stumbled onto, because we do have the best compactor in the world. I mean, this compactor dominates Europe and Australia, and it's a great product. It's basically Rexroth pumps, Cummins engines. It's manufactured in Finland. So the good thing is, like you said, just down the street about 20 miles, we have about $3 million worth of parts in inventory. We also service all of North America, including Canada, where we sell machines, and we sell machines all over the United States. This is not an experiment. This is not a new product. It's just new to the U.S. in terms of only being here about 10 years. We've built a great reputation with hundreds and hundreds of landfills. A ton of them are small. A ton of them are smaller than you guys. The benefit is this local business that we're talking about, we're just down the street. And this is going to be our showplace for the nation and for North America. When we get a compactor here, we're going to be flying people in, and we want to turn this into a model site here. There is no speculation on the reliability, dependability of our company. When we just were selling scrapers 10 to 15 years ago, we had one basis, and it was service and support. That has kept us in the scraper business, and we dominate that scraper business. I want to talk to you about those because I've got a lot of thoughts on the concerns when we move to that product. But right now we're talking about TANA compactors. You know, we started out, we had to go so far on service and support above and beyond everybody else's. And so we thought, you know, we'll parlay what we do in the scraper business as far as that support to the TANA product. We basically built a huge inventory about 20 miles from here. We ship out of here every day to parts and services for our compactors all over North America. When we deliver a machine Further, we bring a 20-foot shipping container. We put that on your side. Inside that container is a bank of parts. Humdinger, Tana, we own those parts. If Maribel or Lance calls and says, you know, we've got an alternator out, well, we have a locked container there. You can go and get you an alternator out of there, take a picture of it, send it to my girl in Lubbock. She's going to say, okay, we'll dispatch somebody to put the alternator, or you can put the alternator on. She files a warranty claim, replaces the alternator that's in the part. You're basically down for 30 minutes instead of having to drive to Lubbock, which normally, if you're in Sidney, Nebraska, it's a 24-hour turnaround to get that alternator, as opposed to having it right there in your storage container. Those parts are consignment parts, and you know, today, if we make a decision on a compactor, our compactor is going to come with a 3-year, 5,000-hour warranty. It's just standard. That's about a $50,000, $60,000 product that comes with the 2021 models. We can eliminate the problem of the compactor, and Littlefield's going to become our baby. It's going to be our spot. It's going to be where we bring people. We need this machine in pristine shape. We need it as good as a showpiece as it can have. Sure, you can come to our yard and look at one, but bring one out, let them talk to your operators, your managers. That's our best sales strategy. A couple other things that I want to point out, and you know, I want to welcome questions as we go too, but our single drum design has proven to improve compaction. And the things that Mitch has mentioned about compaction improvement, saving money, out compacting the competition, we've proven, and we've proven it substantially. So when I say we out compact them to the tune of several $1 million in large landfills. Okay, so that's a simple process that, you know, we have a single drum design. We don't have blowout. We're just made to compact. Also, I want to point out that our fuel economy, we simply burn less fuel than our competition. You know, you may not think it adds up, but it does. And so with our single drum design, we basically don't have to run as much, and we use less fuel. You know, I keep harping on our service and support, our local company, and today's supply chain has become quite a nightmare with any product. About a year ago, we had all our sales team in Lubbock for a week, and he literally hammered us. We sat for 5 days and made projections with our potentials all over North America. How many can you sell here? What's this state? What's this national account? How many of those are we going to sell? And so we all did projections for about 5 days, pulled our hair out, and turned them in. He crunched the numbers and came back and said, okay, we ordered them. You ordered what? All of them for the next year. We already ordered them. Our supply chain, we don't have a supply chain problem. We have machines, and it's unheard of for Mitch or Lance to call and say, how long is the delivery time? We just happen to have one on our yard. You can come look at it. Brand new, can be delivered to the city of Littlefield next week. I know my competition, and I know they're 12 to 14 to 16 months out, if you get it then. We have the product you're looking at on our yard today, and can be delivered in weeks. So that's kind of the thumbnail. I can go through detailed presentations, you know, but the basis is service and support. The basis is making Littlefield look good and not have to talk about compactors for 5 or 6 to 10 years. I welcome questions.
You've already answered a couple of mine earlier in talking about things. I'm just kind of looking at this bid on here, and it's just kind of a couple of questions I have on it. And, on page 9 of the packet, you know, it's talking about, you know, the base compactor rate price of $755,917, and then kind of coming down, you know. And when I'm asking this, is this the one that you have on your yard right now? Is this how it's optioned out with the heated mirrors, upgraded lights, and the fire suppression, and the upgraded railing system?
Yeah, I can answer that question. So as it sits now, It does not have a fire suppression system on it.
Okay,
It does not have the upgraded railing system on it.
okay.
It does not have the upgraded LED lights on it. It has the other options on it. So-
Okay.
And so the reason that we're on here is in our discussions, we believe that those were the recommended options based upon discussions we've had with personnel here.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, and that's what I wanted to know. What's the difference, you know, we're looking at $25,000, almost $300 for an upgraded railing system. What's the difference? I mean, what is that getting us, for $25,000, what's that getting us compared to just what's on the machine right now?
Yeah, no, I understand, that's a great question. The Tana landfill compactors have been around since the 60s, and they started, obviously, they're manufactured in Europe, and their biggest market historically has been in Europe. And the waste management in Europe is completely different than the United States, and that's because their recycling programs are different there. They've basically, through government taxes, they forced that into Europe, which has made landfills almost disappear. But when you go to a landfill, the things we see in North American landfills, you don't see there. You don't see the 2x4s and the metal pipes, and you don't see that kind of material. And so because of that, their design in those landfills were really to support more of what you would see in a European landfill. When we started selling these products in North America, they would get beat up a lot faster than like a cat compactor because they had more guarding and rails on it. And so what we did, we're not just a dealer, we're a manufacturer. So we actually developed and designed these upgraded railing systems in order to protect the machine, to allow it to have a longer life and protect it. So these rails they're not like handrails. It's a guarding system that protects the base of the machine from getting beat up in like a construction and demolition type environment. So that's the reason for the railing. And we probably have those on about 60 to 70% of our fleet in North America have those on them.
You don't have a picture in here in this brochure of what it looks like?
No, it's not in that brochure, no, sir. There was a packet that,
I mean, for the stuff that we do out there, Lance, Maribel, I mean, you know, would that really be a necessity?
this is a 3D
the
model
railing?
picture, but basically
Okay.
the color pictures there, you can see that's.
This right here?
Yeah, the colored pieces are the upgrade railing, yes, sir.
Okay.
You can pass that around.
Okay, so speaking of the railing, it makes a big difference because as you mentioned, you know, you get all this construction debris, the pipes, even brush will come back and snap at it. I was actually just mentioning to him that with the cat compactor, it's not railed all the way around. So just at the end of last week, one of those came up and there is damage on the front of the glass. And that's what happened to the last one. You get all this construction debris coming up, and then so you run over it, and that thing comes up and snaps at any part of it. As far as the railing too, there's been instances where the railing has been damaged because of stuff snapping back.
The majority of that stuff's gonna be in that, what do you call it, type 4?
Type 4, right, and that also needs compacting
Right,
as well,
okay.
So,
Another question, or unless there's some more questions on the railing.
So it just adds a lot of guards to keep stuff from getting up and hitting the, has everybody seen this?
When I met with them yesterday, one of the things they pointed out is another machine that did not have the railing on it. And I see now why you would want it, because you've got a very expensive machine here, and that machine that we looked at didn't have the rail, and it was beat up from a construction debris pit. And I mean, a lot of that construction debris bangs up the enclosure and dents stuff, and you know, that closure's there to protect the internal part, but
machine, this front, does it change the visibility from the cab to your blade?
No, it doesn't. That was something that, one of the things that's very important about our machines, when you even compare to other machines, is the visibility. You're able to, the operator's able to see in any direction they're turning, they're able to see the bottom of the blade and both the far right and the far left of the blade at all times. And so when we design those rails, we have that in mind, and so at the top of those rails, there's clearance that's made for that, so it won't interfere in that visibility. Even all other machines, because the cab's on the rear part of compactors, when you turn to the left or right, you lose visibility at the side. And then sometimes even when you're going straight, you can't see the bottom of the blade. You see that in like your cab compactor.
It doesn't give the operator a false sense of security where they get it into something they shouldn't be doing because, oh, I've got guards on it. I mean, that's one thing with operation is just because it has them doesn't mean that, hey, we're going to bell off and.
Actually, it's pretty beneficial though when some of our larger landfills we deal with, because it is substantial. I mean, it's steel. And, when you're running multiple units, just the smallest bump can cause significant damage. So when we have 2 or 3 of these running at one particular site, they always guard them up. I mean, and it's not just for your C&D problem or your pipes and things like that. It's a pretty good bumper.
Okay. How much weight does it add to it?
It's approximately 3,500 pounds.
Which is might be a plus.
It is. It gets us up over 85,000. So
Yeah.
it certainly helps.
This machine, if it was equipped the way it's listed here,
Right.
would be approximately a little over 89,000 pounds.
Tell us about, keep continuing on with the options, the fire suppression system.
Fire suppression is it's its own product. It's not our business. We don't install it because we don't service it. We can't service it. So there's all kinds of guys out there, and we rep some of them, and we recommend some of them, and they'll come in and install it. But if we have a problem, we call them, and they come out and fix it.
On the engine
Let the
department.
experts do it. Let the experts do their product.
I heard from another dealer that your main problem with fire is that you're just not cleaning your machine good enough. Is that accurate?
In a landfill, I mean, that's probably the majority of fires that you see that will happen on a machine. I mean, we've sold 2 machines this year that were just because they called and said, hey, our machine caught on fire and it burned down. They usually get trash in the engine compartment and they didn't have fire suppression systems on them. So that's why. I mean, that was on here. I mean, I'm not specifically requested by your.
And that was one of the questions I also had. I mean, did some other research on this machine and stuff, and I see where they offer a combination. Is it, for $22,000, is this a wet system or a dry system or a combination of both?
Yeah, this is a combination of both. And so, especially when you talk to fire suppression companies, you're gonna hear all kinds of different
Well, I
opinions.
understand that,
So what we do, and what we historically, and this is even before we got into the landfill compactor business, landfill compactors typically had a dry system on there. And it was, the belief, the theory was in trash, if you have a fire, you want it to smother, smother it. And so that's why, that's the theory behind the dry. When Tier 4 engine EP8 requirements came into effect back now 6 or 7 years ago, those systems, the engines in those systems generate significant amount of heat in the after-treatment system. And so what we do and what we recommend, and again, it comes down to the customer, is a dual system where you have powder in all the areas except on the after-treatment system, we have a small wet tank that's pointed to the after-treatment system for that very reason.
My question would be, I understand all that stuff, and on a wet system, I think, in my opinion, you're seeing in this area with our agriculture community and these new baling machines, a lot of guys that have a fire suppression system on those are a wet system. I mean, obviously it's water and it's a foam, which the foam would smother it. You're taking out the oxygen to use as to extinguish a fire. But my thing is, I know that if you discharge a wet system, in order to refill it, you know, I know what the cost would be on that versus the cost on the dry system. You know, how much is a chemical, you know, I guess what I'm getting at, what's it gonna be, and if it's accidentally tripped, you know, how much is that gonna cost us to have this thing recharged all the time? Where on a wet system, you know, you fill it up with water, you put some foam in it, and you're good to go.
Right.
You know, that'd be, I guess, what I was looking at, you know, just the cost of, you know, an accidental trippage.
Discharge. I'm
Yeah.
saying, yeah, it varies depending on when it's discharged, exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, you would probably anticipate $2,000 to $3,000 for
Yeah.
a discharge, yeah.
On a dry system.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. And I know sometimes that dry chemical can be corrosive on electrical components and stuff also, just from my experience being in the military. You know, it kind of, in all cases, didn't want to use a dry chemical on electrical and stuff like that. just
No,
for
we haven't seen any
corrosiveness.
negative factors for that reason on our equipment, but, I mean, I can see where that could happen on some, but I think that probably it's designed to protect that. Because like I said, in the landfill business, historically, that's the most common.
Yeah.
But if you would prefer a wet system,
What would the
you can have a
price?
there'd be no price difference.
It wouldn't be any
No,
price
no,
difference.
sir.
That was another question.
So these contractor prices here are ones we use are based upon the HGAC group, and that's just a contractor price with them, so.
Okay.
It brings a point that the mayor brought up about the maintenance and service of the machine and the dangers that are caused by that. You know, in contrast to some competitors of ours, we don't just sell you a compactor and wish you luck. When we come out here, we do training, we do operator training, we do management training, we do maintenance, very specific maintenance that has to be, you know, daily checks. We train everybody involved. So, you know, that's going to be, to your point, how to clean the machine, how to keep this clean, how to keep the radiator clean, and all the way through. You guys have an access and training on our telemetry program to monitor the machine. We can through our kind of ProTrack system, you can see the machine. You can see when, you know, if there's an alarm, an alert, you know, you can open that engine compartment anytime and analyze an engine remotely from your iPhone, your desk, or your laptop. Just like we do. We monitor the machine constantly.
And going back to your question about the fires, the most common reason, which you already knew, that fires in a compactor are trash buildup in the engine compartment. And all brands of compactors, they, you know, you'll hear, and other equipment too, but you'll hear the term belly pan. And everybody has a different types of belly pans that open up certain ways. And it's about keeping that engine compartment clean. Now, one of the things with the Tana design is we have a fully enclosed belly pan. There's no way to get trash up there. Now, you've seen in some of the brochures, we have these swing out doors that you get full access from the top to everything. So it's not impossible to get trash in there, but it's a lot more difficult, but it's also, and it's easier to clean out as well. So that's some of the advantages that we have. You will see as a percentage. We have had customers that have had our machines that have gotten small fires on them. We've never had one that has been destroyed. Like the two that we replaced, were not the machines we replaced, but they bought our machines to replace them. So that is an advantage with the design of Tana, is it's a fully enclosed belly pan. And then to Charlie's point, one of the things that we do as a company is every day we run a report of our entire fleet in North America. And our customer service group looks at alarms from all of our fleet. And then depending on the alarms that we take appropriate action. So for instance, if there's a severe alarm, we get it within a matter of seconds or minutes of when it happens, and we would actually call somebody immediately. But very worst case would be if we see something going on that isn't something that needs to be taken care of right the second. The next morning when they review it, they'd be calling your landfill management and saying, hey, we saw this happen yesterday or yesterday afternoon. You might need to check this or whatever the situation is. That's part of something that we do on a regular basis, every day, Monday through Friday. So.
What's daily maintenance look like for the operator?
It's about 10 minutes of checks. of things, and obviously if there's something wrong, it might take, depending on what, would need to be changed, but unless, on 90+% of the time, it's gonna be 10 minutes of checking everything, and if there's not a problem, you start it up, you start running. The services are, every 250 hours, there's a level of service that's due. The least level is every 250, is only 2 fuel filters and a AC filter that has to be changed out. And then every 500 hours of hydraulic fluid and, not hydraulic fluid, gear oil fluid and engine oil is changed every 500 hours, along with some other
You're
things.
greasing the hinge and the blade every day?
It is, yes, it is checked, greased every day, yes.
And your operator's responsible for that? Now, what's your checks and balances to make sure your operator's greasing and servicing your equipment? Any of them?
They have a log every day too, they have to go in and check. Also, I mean, we make sure we have supplies as far as
Does
daily.
anybody spot check and make sure that
Yes.
operators are cleaning machines?
Yes, and which, lately we've had to, we need a pressure washer to go out there real quick. And I would like a pressure washer that we may have out there on our own without having to come into town and drag one out there to help with the maintenance. Because on the track loader, whether it's on the track loader or the compactor, a lot of that dirt gets stuck in there. Since we were having to put in that loader to move some of that trash, all that is wet. So, moving it from one pit to the next has kind of been a problem. The guys have lately just kind of, chiseled at it and taken the mud, dirt, whatever's been getting stuck on it. So it would definitely help on that. And that's really the only problem we have right now. As far as greasing, they do it every day, cleaning the windows, making sure there's no leak, opening up, doors, either on the loader or the compactor. That's a big thing, make sure there's no leaks at the time. And
With the cat, the wheels are exposed and they have scrapers on them. Is there any concern of debris and rope or cable? With this closed, you have this solid roller with this cover over it.
Right.
It looks like you could get some stuff up under there.
Well, we actually have a built-in scraper bar system that you can see in there on each side of the drums. There's a scraper bar on the rear and the front.
That's scraping.
That's cleaning it all the time. In fact, that's one of the reasons that the design of the tonneau provide, that's one of several reasons that we get the higher compaction rates, because it keeps the drum clean almost all the time, and even in the nastiest, stickiest kind of environments. At the end of each drum, we have a wire cutter that's on the front and the rear of the drum. And so if you start getting cable or rope, that's there to then help cut that loose and work itself out. So it's in fact, going back to kind of almost similar reasoning on the North American market, when we first brought those in, they had half the wire cutters, but they weren't used to the environments that we're in. And so we actually Humdinger designed a wire cutting system that's on the machines that they incorporated out in the factory to have them on both sides. And since we did that, we have seen almost no problems whatsoever with that in our fleet. So what you see with the other ones is they do have most of the companies will have a scraper bar system of some kind, but you'll see after a couple of years, sometimes a couple of months, they break off because they're exposed, and all ours are built in underneath, and so we don't have that problem.
And you're a complete final drive system, so 4 final drives, everything's hydraulic.
We are. In fact, all out of every compactor in the world is hydraulic except for Caterpillar. Caterpillar is still direct drive, and that's because they're using their front end loaders as the base to build a compactor, and it's not worth. I mean, they build hundreds of those a month of those front end loaders, so
They're still direct drive.
Yeah, they're the only direct drive compactor in the world. When you're in an environment where you're doing a lot of reverse and forward, it's like a forklift in a warehouse. It's been proven that hydraulic transmissions are a lot more effective in that way. That's the same thing on landfill. course, CAT's gonna tell you something different, they have their own opinion, but that's why everybody else has changed it.
So on your, you were saying on your preventative maintenance and stuff on here, you had a service kit for 2,000 hours for $8,800 on that. Is that something that, I mean, it's not included with the warranty or anything like that?
It's not.
And so, you know, we didn't have that in every PM that you were saying like 250, 500 hours, you know, we would have to purchase that or?
Yes, sir, there's a kit that, there's 4 different levels of kits for that machine. And, that would be the first 8 kits.
That's not one, that's all of them, for 2 years.
Yeah, that's for the first 2,000 hours, so, we get a lot of requests for that, and so that's why we have that.
Fuel filters,
Fuel filters, oil filters, oil. It doesn't include fluids, it's not fluids, it's only the hard goods, only the hard goods. There's about every oil change, engine oil change every 500 hours, it's about 14 gallons. And then the gear oil is about 8 gallons, and it's every 500 hours. Hydraulic oil is changed every 1,500 hours. And it's a little less than 50 gallons, so 55 gallon barrel hydraulic oil.
And the gear oil is going for each motor, is that correct, on the drive motors and stuff?
There it is, there's about 2 gallons per gear motor. With the 380, there's only 3, so that would be only 6 gallons on the 380. I misspoke on
do y'all have a plan where y'all do those heavy 250 and 500 hour services?
Yeah. Yeah, we have that, we could offer that as well. We could, the most common that we have is we typically do that, we just charge on an hourly basis. So, every 250 hours, we have a rate we could give you that says for every hour you run it, we'll bill it monthly, that we would charge whatever the number is, $10 an hour, and then that covers all your services.
We don't have a heavy mechanic that can change all these fluids and stuff.
Okay.
That's with our other stuff, we're using the dealership to come in and do those big.
Yeah. Well, we'd be glad to give you a contracted price that would fix it in for whatever period of time would be your preference, or number of hours, time or hours, either one. And then you're assured that that price isn't gonna change.
Last question on options I have is these heaters, these preheaters. Tell us about those, what that is.
Well, the reason for the preheater is the same reason, there's 2 styles. The reason is, in cold environments, then you can set it up to where, you know, it's gonna make it hard for the engine to start, just like you would with any piece of equipment. So you wanna go ahead and it will heat up the engine oil, it will heat up the hydraulic oil in the line, so then it will make the machine.
Plug it in the evening at night.
That's right, so there's 2 ways. So the first one is electric, which is a plug, you plug it in, and you can plug it in at night, or you can plug it in the next morning and wait for it to warm up. The other is the Webasto preheater. It's a standalone unit that, it's on the machine, but it basically siphons diesel from the diesel lines, and then you can program it where you can say, okay, at 6 a.m. I want it to start, and it will start on its own and then heat up your lines, and then that way, the theory behind that is when the person gets there, it's already ready to crank up and you won't have a problem. So that's the reason for preheaters, and that's the 2 different methods, is the electric, and you have a diesel preheater.
What would be I mean, typically around here, we're not gonna see an extreme, I mean, we did last year, I mean, but, you know, that's once in 100 years, I mean, but.
Yeah. We don't see many in this part of the country at all. I mean, it comes down to preference of the, once we start heading up north, every one of them has.
So we wouldn't have something like, just like a little block heater or something like a regular, say like a diesel pickup would have or something like that, you know, that you could take, and I mean, something just real simple.
Right, you can have this is a Cummins engine, so you can get a Cummins engine, like you said, block heater, you can get that, and then that would actually work for the engine oil. It's electric, but it wouldn't have the hydraulic oil,
Well,
which
when
would
you
make it
get
still
your-
easier.
Yeah, when you get your engine running, the
Yeah.
hydraulic oil is gonna be circulating too, and it's gonna eventually.
Maribel, y'all don't plug any equipment in out there currently, so it's not even an issue.
Yeah,
I would be, I mean, like I said, we don't see many electric or diesel in the southern part of the US. We don't see many at all.
Does that machine run in the dark?
Yes.
When?
When we've fallen behind, if we're working later at night, I mean, all the lights and everything has been working. Now, lately, we have not had to. This have been in the past.
We usually run in the dark whenever we start getting behind here in town, and we gotta kind of push it, kind of like with these short weeks we're having for
Right.
holidays, we gotta push a little bit harder to, get everybody caught up and picked up.
Any more questions on the compactor? So tabling that for a minute. Let's get into our repair of our CAT machine. We need to be able to make a decision on whether we're gonna do that. You're asking for our direction on that?
Yes, I'd like the commission to go ahead and repair that.
So they're asking for, this broke in September, we're approaching January, and we need to make a decision on whether we're gonna fix this machine. This machine does have brand new tires,
Yes.
has a brand new engine and transmission.
Transmission.
Transmission, not engine?
No.
How old is the engine?
Oh, goodness. I don't think we've ever had it replaced.
We never had it replaced.
Well, that's the problem with it now. It has to do with the engine as well,
There's nothing in here about the engine.
hasn't it? Has to do with the engine. Or no, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Let me go back. It's not the engine.
So it's showing 3,583 hours, is that total engine hours, or is that what it is?
Yes, I believe so.
So for a early to mid-80s model, you got 3,583 hours on, is that correct then?
At one time, I want to say that was rebuilt, like, I think right before we got that, or at some point. I believe so, but it was
Yeah.
before we took over.
If it's been rebuilt, and, when it was rebuilt, and, how.
It
It had
hasn't
to.
been since, maybe when Derek was here.
Yeah, maybe,
But it hasn't been rebuilt since we've
Okay.
right.
had it. I do kind of remember
That's a pretty
something.
low number of hours for
Right.
I do remember something about an engine overhaul or something years ago.
Right.
So overall, this machine is pretty good shape. The chains, the belts, the scraper is good. So the main problems with it right now are steering cylinders, are the articulation pivot pin is a very expensive deal that's got to be locked board and everything to get that fixed. That's the big deal. But they're going to fix the steering valves, and then they're going to do some radiator work and then re-pin the center. This scraper, regardless, is worth absolutely probably not a whole lot right now because it's just, it operates, it moves, right?
No, not, I mean, we,
They recommend you don't.
not
with
to
that-
move it right now.
Put that locked up
Yeah.
like that. They don't, they
Yeah, 'cause
recommend
it's-
doing this.
Just to be clear on the engine, is the engine, does it operate the engine?
Yes,
Engine will start
yes,
and run.
yes.
And it's not super low in power or anything like that?
No.
No.
So what's locked up?
Well,
It's,
the civets, yeah.
right. The cap connected to the back of it, it's in between all of that.
What happened to that, just wear and
The
tear?
pin broke out, yeah, wear and tear throughout
Like
the years.
maintenance or anything?
No, that's just wear and
Just
tear
old.
of all this,
Now when you
yeah.
go look for parts for this thing, they have a section, and it says antique, and that's where we find the parts for this thing. No, I'm serious. That's what I was looking at, I was like, that's what it is.
Really, they is, for a six, was this a
Yeah,
615?
and it says on the bottom, it's a good little machine.
They're still making them, aren't they not?
No, they discontinued the 615 a number of years ago.
Yeah,
623 now.
623, unless they bought it back recently, they've only been building the 623.
right.
Okay.
So
I just thought it was funny, I like.
It's like, no, seriously.
No,
it's
seriously.
like all the other equipment, our wheel loader that's still sitting out there is it's waiting on parts and it's auction material that's gonna bring a few $1,000s for parts for somebody. So your decision is, do you wanna spend 40 on this machine that has new tires, a new transmission, a good engine to fix it, run it? We don't need to be digging pits with this machine. It's a good machine to cover with, do some light work out there. But this machine does not need to be digging pits anymore. But in my opinion, for $40,000, I think we should fix it, get it operating, use it for what its use is now, which is light duty, and and not try to be digging pits and stuff. We need to lease or buy to do something like that. Is everybody in agreement that, I mean, we've got to have a scraper. The other option is to sell it for scrap and go buy a new one, which is going to be bigger, which may not be the perfect machine to be in covering with. So, we get a motion to repair this scraper.
This quote that we have here,
That was really high hours. And it was the only one that was
well, what I
less
left
than
in my
800,000.
My question is, with this quote right here, it's showing a rental expense for another scraper
Oh, I'm sorry.
shaft
Yeah.
on page 7.
I would like to, now Lance, would y'all like to go ahead and lease a machine to cover that area to the far south side of the landfill? I mean, to me, I'm wondering that might not be a bad move for us to do that while we're waiting on the repair for the 615.
Let's, I mean,
What do you think?
I'm gonna try not to cuss and throw a shit fit. It's January, this broke down in September, I mean, what's the point now? I mean, apparently we've lived for 3 months, 4 months of not doing anything, so why do we need to go lease one today to cover it? It's a mess out there. TCQ rolls up, we're probably getting a fine but I mean,
How long will it take to repair the one we have?
I don't know yet. I called this morning and I don't have an answer back yet on that.
I mean, yeah, we're gonna need to do something to close out that old pit. If this one's a 3-week fix, maybe we wait. Are we gonna go rent a new $15,000 and cover a little bit and pay that $15,000 and let it set use it for 10 hours, 20 hours and let it set for the other? How many hours is that gonna be on that lease?
Well, I think that lease is probably for a month.
It says 1 month, it doesn't say anything.
What's that if we deliver lease?
15, 20?
Hours? How many hours are in a month lease?
They usually just do 168. I mean,
160.
they typically charge you more once you go more than 40
It's
hours.
a 40-hour-a-week
Yeah, pretty
basis
much.
for a rental, so you're renting 160 hours of machine. So unless you've got another pit to get into, it doesn't really.
If it go, I guess my question is, would it be to our advantage to go ahead and do that, like you're saying, or not,
To start another pit.
or to include that in our action,
How long would it take to cover that south part that we've been using? Looks to me like about at least 20 acres.
I think the rental should just be maybe based depending on what CAT tells us. I mean, because they are out a couple of weeks. So if we wait another month or two to get it, then it just progressively gets worse. So I think really it should be based depending on what CAT tells us on that. If we're, like I said, further away. The other option we can use the wheel loader. It would take a little bit longer. But having access to the wheel loader gives us a lot better coverage opposed to the track loading having the teeth, and the wheel loader having a flat blade. So, I mean,
When are you gonna put your final cover on this south area that you showed me last week where y'all?
We got the wheel loader in today, so the guys can definitely, I have one out this week, but next week, one can start doing coverage and the other one can start
No, I
working
mean,
on the
like,
pits.
When we're ready to put our final TCEQ cover and close those out, are we not? Now, are we ready to smooth grade?
Well,
and final
yeah,
cover?
once you cover that, I mean, obviously, they won't be able to be used anymore. We don't call it closure because, they're still considered open pits. If we do closure, then that requires an amendment. So, I mean, as far, we're covering, we're closing, because that will not be used again. But, because there won't be any more pit space on that part. But, I mean, it's not closed technically. Do you know what I'm
Final
saying?
cover,
I'm sorry.
final cover.
Final cover, that would be what they consider final cover.
That's when we put your topsoil.
Yeah, that's when you would put the topsoil and seed, which we can't, I mean, we could, but it would require an amendment and more money to do that. So what we have done in the past is just, cover, contain erosion, and just no more dumping in those areas.
It's gotta be close to.
Right, at some point.
Usually we try to wait, with those cells. It's gotta be prepped to be closed, but we kind of try to close a big section at one time, so we're not having to close this section and turn around and close this section, and then turn around and close
You
this
wanna
section.
close that whole
Right.
road.
Yeah, that whole
Right.
thing,
Right.
and do it in one go.
Because that would have to be submitted through, we would have to have our engineers come in, and it would have to be submitted through TCQ to do all of that, so, I mean,
Are we close
that's,
to being to where we're gonna wanna do that?
No,
no.
we still have that pit on that end of the water.
So you can get that south part, the exposed trash covered.
Yeah, we can get it covered, get it prepped and ready to
Right.
go,
Okay.
but we won't do the paperwork on it till that next
Be
week.
very efficient.
Right.
How many hours, if you had a scraper, do you anticipate that it would take to close out that section?
We had a scraper to close out that whole section,
A week?
about a week, 2.
Yeah. And are we at risk for a fine if they see that?
Oh, yes.
And approximately, what would that be,
How much would that fine be?
roughly? 25?
25 to 45
Plus,
plus.
there's just too much trash exposed.
Okay. So it might make sense to me.
Well, see, they charge us, almost 40 for 12 batteries, so
Well,
Because we don't know how long it's going to
they do not play.
action on that, so.
And Cat will be in charge of that. They will bring us a scraper. When I spoke to the lady up there, that is included on the quote, so they would be responsible to bring us one and then take ours.
So, y'all haven't got to talk while sell us on yours deal. You have forced ejection scraper ready.
It's like, we don't even want to.
We don't sell tractors.
segue.
Yeah, that's right.
Trade-in value.
I don't see this in a landfill, really.
We do.
Do y'all?
We do a lot of landfills and, it can be pulled single, double, or triple. Landfills are great places because of the long haul road. When you're going into your cut, you're moving it. It does require a power unit. So, that would be something we need to find locally here. Four-wheel drive, 400 plus horse tractor. That can do almost everything you're talking about. And I think if you also, when you're talking about incorporating the Tana compactor, you notice the finish that leaves on the trash. And this is something we talked with Lance about, is the finish requires about 50% less cover for ours. But going back
To achieve your 6 inches, so that's.
Going back to your scraper though, we sell a 20-yarder, 26-yarder, and 29 today that we dig a ton of landfill cells, we cover in cells. The difference is probably the price. Your tractor's probably going to be in the neighborhood of $200,000 to $400,000. Scraper's 150 or so. You're looking at half your price that Mitch just got quoted on the elevating scraper there, 800 and something. So we moved
23-yard capacity versus.
yeah, we move the same amount of dirt with ours that they do for, $1,000,001 or $2 million, whatever he said.
New scraper, the size we're talking about, it would be about a little over $1 million. In a 90-day, is what they're talking about.
Well, we're talking about half probably with the substantial traffic power unit.
Okay.
That was one of the driving factors of the picture closing, was the cost difference. And their volumes, gas volumes decreased substantially.
Where are we at on pit space? Our type 4 construction debris is still has, we're 2 or 3 years out from another pit for that. Type 1, we're currently digging a new one. We have one that's, the one that's underwater is how much capacity do we have? We still have 50% of that.
We still have
Oh.
50%, way over 50%.
So we're 2 years from needing another type 1 pit probably, correct? So digging, having the capability of digging, this isn't an emergency. This. But getting an operating scraper to cover is important, and to be able to do some.
Has anybody talked to Cat to see if this quote is still good?
I have not, but I can
They're
talk to
only
him.
good for 30 days, what it says on their back page.
Okay.
And this was done 3 months ago.
Which I will speak to her today and get something to Mr. Grant.
Well, at the time we had got this quote, Lance and I discussed this, and at the time, I don't know that I really realized how necessary that scraper equipment is, because we've been operating without it. And we kind of made the decision at that time not to have it fixed, because we were using the loader, and Lance was shopping from that time here to now, looking at scrapers. Just, I mean, just not, they're just expensive, really expensive. That's why we haven't done anything with it. We did make a decision not to fix it back then, but
And we didn't look at the quote close enough to know that it had a month of rental in there too, that was $14,000, which made it seem high.
And it could be higher now. Or stuff unavailable.
well, my biggest worry is getting the parts for the swivel.
I understand that, that's right, you know, it'd probably be wise to go ahead and include the rental, I mean, we don't know how long it's gonna take, and we could be subject to some other fines or something, and then if we do something, we would, I'll check into it.
If we get it, we need to use it to get those pits in shape and try to get it done in 2 weeks and not take a month's rent, take a weekly rental rate and try to get it done in a week or 2 and get it used efficiently and get it sent home.
Yeah.
So that we're not paying, maybe we can cut that 15 into half.
Yeah, those guys, they'll run Saturdays and stuff like that too, just to try to get their stuff done, so.
So kind of the action before us today, I don't know that it's necessary that we talk about buying a scraper. I think it's something we need to be looking at in the next year or 2. But we definitely have to get an operating scraper, and we need to make a decision. Y'all want to go ahead and upgrade a compactor while we're available and everything's working and has resale value. Buddy, what's your thought?
I think we need to get hold of Cat and see if this quote is still good and how long it's gonna take to get fixed. As far as the compactor, I think we need a new one.
So with can somebody, is 115, can somebody come and make that call? See if this quote's good or how much it's.
Yeah, I can right now.
Okay. Onto the compactor then. So is everybody kind of leaning towards, let's try to do something while getting's good, while ours is still running and can have some
Get
resale
some money
value?
back on it. And do a trade-in.
Yeah, we want you to do a trade-in.
Well, we'll be glad to assist you in that. What we do is, there's a couple of groups that we know that we can give, we give the information to. We'll facilitate it, even if, wherever they'll come back and say, we'll give you 0, or we'll give you 50, or we'll give you 100, or 150, or 200, and then we'll just pass that on. I mean, we'll be glad to do that. I mean,
We knew you were going to take it on trade-in, but.
we'll be glad to facilitate that. I mean,
Sometimes
obviously-
the car can do a lot today for rebuild, because the availability is 14 months out.
Absolutely.
So the carcass does have value.
Yeah.
And it's a good compactor, I mean, it's running.
And we'll just send them direct to you guys, and they buy a bunch of our trade-ins.
That's what we kind of talked about, I mean, while it's running and clean, we need to get it cleaned up, we need to get it where we can sell it.
A lot of small municipalities, and so we'll do something like that.
That was the situation we were in at the time when you.
So is it supposed to be?
We'll be glad to help you, give the right people to give you the best shot to get your value out of it.
As far as these options, it makes sense to upgrade and get LED lights. If we ever use it at night, that's not a big deal. The fire suppression system and the railing, what's y'all's thoughts on that?
I think you definitely need fire suppression. And this, again, my thing is just, if it was me, and if I were buying this myself, I would just stick with the wet, but, I'm just one in 5 here.
Well, they're putting a lot of dry on here for a reason too. I mean, the systems they're putting on here, they're putting on the combination systems.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other when it comes to the type of fire suppression. If you ask, in the landfill compacting industry, if you ask 10 people, you're gonna get 7, 8 different answers on their opinions. If you ask them, there's only really 3 reputable fire suppression manufacturers: Apex, Amorex, and Ansel. If you ask their engineers, they're gonna give you all different answers. We're happy, whatever you're happy with, we're happy with. And it's gonna protect you either way. That shouldn't, in my opinion, it shouldn't be a deciding factor one way or the other. If I can start giving you, again, we don't say we have as Charlie said, we're not the experts in that. And we pass you onto that, you're gonna hear all different opinions, so.
I guess my thing is just the accidental discharges, I know
That is true.
Talking to people like with these cotton strippers and stuff, they can just pull right up, put on a garden hose and fill that tank up, put some foam in it, and they're ready to go. Whereas I just don't know how much the chemical is gonna cost and how long it would take to get somebody out here to recharge it and repressurize it, and then just something happens and all of a sudden it discharges again, the cost effectiveness on that.
Well, if you make a decision to put a fire suppression system on today, then we can provide more information, and then you can decide which one you want. It doesn't matter, it doesn't affect
The price is the same, so I recommend we get a fire system. Definitely, I think it'd help our insurance purposes too.
Railing system is a lot of money. What percentage of machines that you sell do you put the railing system on?
Today, new is probably 75 to 80%, like I said earlier, in our fleet, because we didn't start this on day one. We probably have them on about 60 to 70% of the fleet. It's very uncommon that we don't put those on anymore because of the reasons I described earlier.
There's also a selfish reason. We want this to be our showplace, and we want it to have the rails on it.
Well, why don't you put the rails on and we'll show it.
I think he gave you a really good haircut on it. You did get a substantial discount.
Well, you can keep the heated mirrors
too.
That's true.
We want them on here so we can show them too, and he did knock it down the cost.
And
for you,
delivery time, which if we put fire suppression on, when's the logical delivery day?
Okay, so we can have the whole machine delivered here and commission it up and running within the matter of a week and a half or so. What we can't do, because I checked already, is, and I checked with our normal Texas fire suppression company, the first time that they could have the ability to install would be the week of January 17th. But you don't have to wait. You can start and then so forth. So, but that'd be up to you if you wanted to wait. But we can have the machine up and run within the next couple weeks.
Does that come with a full tank of diesel and depth?
If it needs to, it sure will, sir.
Mary Bell said she would rather have the rating system, correct?
I'm sorry?
You'd rather have the rating system?
The real, yes. That- Yeah,
And that makes sense with this much money to protect it.
right,
I
right.
make a motion, we purchase the new E380 compactor with the upgrades that are listed, the LED lights, fire suppression system, and the railing system.
I second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded that we purchase the new E380 with those upgrades. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. On to the compactor, or the scraper. Thank you, guys. I think.
We are gonna start moving all your equipment over to our new place. We can get that here.
We're almost done. I mean, if you
Yeah,
stick around.
I mean, you can, let us know afterwards. I know that if, and this is doesn't matter to us, but we provided at y'all's request, government financing, which has nothing to do with our company. We don't go through that, so I don't know if that's something that y'all were considering or not, but that was.
Yeah, we gotta either use HGAC or one of the purchasing deals. We can't.
Well, whether you use them or not, I didn't know if you wanted to do it that way, but that was,
We'll just pay for it.
yeah, okay.
I will be available to talk about scrapers, if you think y'all do, because that's my specialty.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
John.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, looking forward to business.
Next, item
Have a good day.
is
Looking forward to working.
Yes, sir.
he got an update on the quote, so it's $2,400 more. Tell him, is that what he said?
He said, anywhere from a month and a half to 2 months for the repair.
That'll be great. Thank you, guys.
You know, I don't know if that's good or not, but I mean, that's what they say. 3 weeks to get the parts and 3 weeks for the labor.
So the quote, an additional 2,400, is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you give the total amount for the new?
So that would bring it to 57,200.
42,681.
We don't have a rental quote right now.
Oh, that's not with the rental?
Not
quote?
with the rental.
Okay. Okay.
The quote to repair our machine is what, Mitch?
42,681.
Okay. So that repairs it, and then we'll need to lease one additional to cover. That's not the one thing we don't need to lease this for with these guys digging the pit. We're paying them to dig it, right?
Yeah, we don't have to, I mean, the only reason we need a scraper now is to cover that, the data cover or to cover that south section there that we have trash exposed.
The pit, correct me if I'm wrong, my intention of leasing a scraper is to cover that wind-blown trash area, not to do our daily cover with. We're gonna make it do with what we have. Once we get the pits back open, a normal pit, we're gonna make do with the track loader, compactor, whatever we have to cover with. The point of getting the scraper is to get out of the TCQ fines, and get it back covered up and get it sent back. Is that everybody's understanding?
Agreed.
So we all need to lease the machine. I make a motion, we repair our scraper and lease a machine to cover, to do the work we need to do out there.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Eric, seconded by Buddy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next, did we figure out our compressor deal? Do we have a screw compressor?
We've got a compressor and we're getting some prices on some more, but my folks are wanting to wait and see if they can't get the one we have working, because it should do the job fine. Just had some minor things y'all are working on, is that right?
Yeah, they've taken over AAA, gonna check it out for us.
So we have a compressor, but it's not working.
Yeah, it's
We're
just.
working on that compressor now, Mayor.
Gas or diesel?
We started on it today, trying to get some tires on it so we can get it in
Is
the
it
shop.
gasoline powered? Gas or
It's a
diesel?
gas powered.
Gas.
It's a Ford engine, gas engine.
One of the things I noticed when on my little toured to dump some trash the other day, is they're not keeping the equipment clean. Part of it is because we're trying to blow off these scrapers and all this stuff with gas-powered G-Bose compressor in the back of a pickup. We need a screw compressor out there that they can roll up, clean this stuff off, get the dirt out of the tracks. You have to be careful with those because you'll blow the fins out of the radiator and you blow seals out, so you have to be careful using them. But it turns a job into 10 minutes to clean these up, to put them in a barn. So I guess we'll give you a chance to get yours fixed, but we'll need to be getting that addressed so that we can get these machines taken care of.
We'll work on that one, and meanwhile, we'll get some options on the next council meeting.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, with the amount of money that, you guys are doing a good job of the amount of money that we have spent for the landfill, trash trucks, compactors, scrapers and stuff. I think, just be on top of everything. Preventative maintenance is gonna be the key to this, and we don't wanna get in a situation like we were when we came back in and started doing our own trash collection again. And I realize, that situations, limited us in doing that, but, we're looking at about, $2.5, $3 million worth of new equipment, and we need to take good care of it and be responsible and hold people accountable for it. That's the main thing.
There needs to be spot checks. Because I'm losing some faith in our ability to go out and make sure that we're doing stuff. So, city manager needs to be out at the landfill. Lance, you need to be out at the landfill. Mayor Bell, they'll need to spot check the machines. Because, if a guy's skipping stuff, we've got $2 million worth of equipment at the landfill. And if we're not greasing it and stuff, somebody needs to lose their job. And if we're not taking care of it. Part of it is we need to quit being stingy with trying to tell you that here's a $600 G-Bose compressor, take care of 3 machines at landfill, keep them clean. All you're going to do with that is blow the radiator out and the air filter. That's about all that's going to be good for. So the $5,000, the $7,000 used screw compressor, it's going to put it in the barn in 10 minutes, basically 15 minutes. It's going to change your daily maintenance tremendously. The washing, you're not going to, you said a minute ago we need to wash it. That's probably a week deal to wash the loose dust off of it, but with that high capacity compressor, if you're blowing it daily like you should be, it doesn't need washed except once a week or once every other week. We've got to provide you with stuff. Lincoln Electric grease guns that I've been asking for a year to be able to go out and make sure that our guys are greasing on a cold day when it's cold and there's 400 or 150 grease certs out there. They need grease that day because they're going to operate. Instead of going out there with a hand pump grease gun that's been in the back of a pickup cold, we need a $500 Lincoln grease gun in the building that they go and get, take out their grease and then put it back and get our stuff taken care of.
Cut their time way down on grease.
Cuts their time down and it makes them take care of stuff because they're not going to take care of it if it's a 3-hour service job every day. But if we can cut that down to where it's a 30-minute service job, we're going to get stuff taken care of.
Also, too, I think they need someone out there needs to get a punch list, like what they're talking about, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and things like that to keep it in order.
And I'm not, every department, I'm not diminishing, Mayor Bill, I'm not ragging on you. You have changed the landfill, and it is, and you and Lance and your team out there, it is tremendously better. I've been doing this 8 years now. It is night and day what it used to be. And part of it is we're trying to give you the tools to do it, but what we're asking in return, we're making the investment. We expect that the 2 of you, the 3 of you, are going to maintain this equipment because this tandem compactor is going to have to last us probably 10 years. We're going to need to put it in the budget where we figure in this depreciation amount, where we repay our capital improvement fund. And that's for Andrew and Mitch to take care of where we have the money to buy the next one. But we're expecting, we're going to give you all good equipment. We expect you all departments to take care of them and do. And if it's a $5,000 hot seat pressure washer that we need at the Public Works building and an RO system to be able to clean this stuff, we just bought $500,000 worth of trucks. Let's go spend $10,000 and get a pressure washer to keep this stuff clean and take care of it. Because Buddy sees the equipment, we need, and that's one thing I've asked them to consider is getting a wash bay at Public Works where we have RO water and where the police cars can roll up, wash their vehicles, water guys, whoever, and they've got RO water and a hot washer to wash, or we have our mechanic guy do it, or however that works. But anything else, this agenda is pretty broad, so anything else for the landfill y'all want to discuss?
We still need to figure out how to cover the new machines.
Cover the
Cover for the machines.
Right. Keep them out of the snow and
Yeah.
stuff. You're exploring that.
Yeah, we work on that. I'll try to get something, or I will get something.
Anything else?
Thank you.
If not, we are adjourned.